Welcome to Himbo. Oh, that was bad. Welcome to Himbo.
Where we talk about political things. Keep going. You gotta just run with it. The first thing you think of.
Okay, yeah. Welcome to Himbo, where we're so far left, we're out of bounds, but we don't do lib shit.
Can we get a referee in here?
Hey, wait, I think it's an umpire if in baseball.
Only if you're from New York.
What? Welcome to Himbo.
Where one idea doesn't define your entire viewpoint.
But sometimes it does.
Welcome to Himbo.
Where I have a lot of hair and Vince doesn't.
I have nothing to add to that. What the fuck?
Sorry. I didn't mean to be rude. I think you look great.
Well, thanks, man.
Okay, should we try that again?
Welcome to Himbo.
Where we like to talk about...
There's no way you're going to be able to use yourself talking that slow. All right, I'm going to tee you up.
You're going to tee me up?
Welcome. Yeah.
Okay.
Try and pre-think here. You're going to have like 3 seconds, all right?
Okay.
Welcome to Himbo.
Where two best friends talk about things they're learning about in politics.
But we're still really stupid.
Nice.
So how about this infrastructure bill? You want to just get into it?
Jesus. Dude, there's nothing I want to talk about less than the infrastructure bill.
Yeah.
Why is it... It doesn't even exist anymore. It's so small. It's so small. What are we going to do with this? Okay, here. I have explosively angry takes on this subject.
Okay.
So why don't you tee us off before I turn into a madman?
All right. So just to start with, if you guys are listeners to the first episode, I think it was, where we talked about this, we were both a little bit frustrated that the size of the infrastructure bill had already been reduced. It's like 7.2 trillion, and then it was 6 trillion, and then it was 2.5 trillion, I think. Yeah. Well, now, in an effort to be bipartisan, Joe Biden has reduced it down to 1.1 trillion. And the funny thing is, like, effort to be bipartisan is like, there's no Republicans actually asking for this. He just is like preemptively trying to make them happy. And my whole comment on that is like, dude, it's so cute that he thinks that it's about money for them. You know, like, dude, yeah. They don't care. You could make it $1 and they would still be like, no, but the Democrats eat babies, though.
Yeah.
So,
like, them being so adamantly opposed to this is playing into this stereotype, this, like, dumb fucking idea where it's like, the Republicans are like the financial party, and Democrats just like spend a lot. So you elect a Republican to save money, and you elect a Democrat to spend it. Like,
yeah, except the Republicans spend just as much money. They just only care about it when a Democrat's in office.
Yeah. In fact, I think that's not as accurate as it could be. Republicans just refuse to
raise taxes to pay for it.
Yeah, it's not even raise taxes. They refuse to like pay the taxes that already exist.
Yeah,
they're like, oh, let us just like cut more and cut more and cut more. In fact, like, why are corporations paying taxes? Why should they be taxed twice? That doesn't make any sense. Like, why are we taxing the corporation and Jeff Bezos? If we don't, then he's gonna give money to poor people, and it's gonna solve homelessness because trickle down economics works. It's so fucking frustrating and infuriating.
Yeah, trickle down is like a frustrating thing. This is something that Bill Maher came up with a good expression for this. It's what's called a zombie lie. It's one of those things that no matter how many times you debunk it with historical and factual data, it just keeps coming back. Like, if they just repeat it enough times, like, people believe it no matter what. So trickle down is one of those things. We've been doing it for over 40 years, and it's just here to stay, no matter how badly it doesn't work.
Yeah. And our military budget our fucking military budget.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, we sorry, we can't spend any money on the people in this country or our crumbling infrastructure because we have to spend it destabilizing countries in Latin America. Yeah. Sorry, we're too busy overthrowing democratically elected leaders around the world. Like, come the fuck on.
Before we get into a tangent on a tangent within that, I think we should talk about 1.1 trillion may sound like a lot of money, and it is a lot of money. It's just for the
over
scope
10 years.
Well, but for the scope of the project we're talking about, it's not sufficient. So I was actually texting Kellen when this happened because I was wondering, like, how much is one bridge? And I looked into one bridge that was built a couple miles away from me recently. And like, I do not live in New York City or anything like that. Like, this is not like the Golden Gate Bridge here. This bridge that's like a mile long cost $400 million. So when you extrapolate out that math, it means with this $1.1 trillion infrastructure bill, you could pay for 2,500 bridges. Obviously, there's more bridges than that in the country. Number one, if we were only going to use them on bridges. And on top of that, like, Joe Biden initially, when he presented this package had like expanded what it meant to be infrastructure to talk about childcare and shit like that. That's not happening with this money. Like, you need so much more money than this.
This bill was supposed to tackle roads and bridges. It was supposed to replace pipes all around the country, like crumbling
airports.
Airports. It was supposed to encompass our first strides towards installing electric vehicle refueling stations across the country so that people could actually move around in their electric vehicles. It was supposed to go towards climate change and renewable energy efforts. It was supposed to create jobs in all of these areas for the next decade and rebuild our country. We have not been spending money on it. This is not an annual bill, like, which is what I want people to understand. Like, infrastructure is not something that is like focused on in like budget reconciliation, right? This is not something that we're voting on often. This is something that you have to come back to every once in a while and drop some fucking coin on, or your country just crumbles.
And in the case of America, by every once in a while, you mean like every 50 to 100 years. So, I mean, think about it. When was the last major infrastructure spending bill? Was the New Deal in like the 30s? We're like coming up on 100 years. I'm sure there was like smaller bills in between then and now, but nothing like on that scope.
Yeah. And we need it now.
Yeah.
We need it now more than ever. We are at not to get into a total other tangent, but the job market for skilled to unskilled labor is, the gap is just getting larger and larger and larger. College degrees are becoming a requirement for more and more base level jobs, and there's not enough unskilled labor in this country to maintain the populace, you know?
And I gotta be honest with you, I think for a lot of those jobs, the degree requirement is completely unnecessary, like superfluous.
For sure.
I think that like specialized degrees make perfect sense to me, but I think this whole like, you need this generalized rubber stamp degree to do this job that has nothing to do with the degree is just it's sort of a form of classism, you know?
It is, but it makes sense. It makes sense that that requirement exists because it's funneling money into educational institutions, you know? It's like, I don't want to come off as there is no conspiracy, right? You know, there are not like college boards talking to employers and saying like, oh, you need to require this degree so that people will give me money. But
the incentives just line up to like make this problem happen.
Yeah, for sure. Any institution under a capitalist society is prone to evolve to find more ways to make money. That's literally the point of things existing in a capitalist structure, is to accrue more wealth. So, like a cancer, it just finds more ways to do that. But anyway, off that tangent, he ran, dude. We elected this motherfucker on a couple of really key issues, right? So Joe Biden ran on a $15 minimum wage. He ran on a $7.2 trillion infrastructure bill, and so far, he ran on prescription drug reform, and so far he's done none of those things.
Well, I'm going to push back a little bit and say he campaigned on all those things, but really all he ran on was that he's not Donald Trump. So,
dude, that's all he won on for sure.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
That's the only thing people were voting on.
Yeah. So let me just be frustrated for a moment.
Sure.
Why the fuck are we negotiating with Republicans?
I have no
Why
idea.
are we doing it?
We're not going to appease them, so fuck them.
We're not going to appease them. Here, let me be real. So there's this. The current infrastructure bill is this bipartisan deal that has 5 Republicans on board. You need 10 to pass the bill. Has 5 Republicans on board, and everyone's moving forward under this like strange idea that if we keep negotiating and keep pulling it down, like maybe by the time that we pass it, we can whip 5 Republicans in the Senate over to our side and pass a bipartisan bill. But let me be real and frank with you here. No matter what we fucking do, the Republicans aren't going to vote for it. We did the same thing with the American Rescue Plan, and we negotiated and we negotiated and we negotiated. We brought it down. We brought it down further. We whittled our expectations and our plans to almost dust to appease the Republicans. And you want to know how many Republicans voted for the American Rescue Plan?
0.
0 fucking Republicans. I don't know if people even like realize how that works. Like we literally negotiated with a whole bunch of people for months and fucked Americans over to get 0 extra votes.
Yeah.
We passed it with a bare majority, which is all we needed.
Right.
And
they've been taking credit for that bill since then.
They've been taking credit for the bill since then.
Yep.
They've been taking credit for this neutered piece of shit that not every single one of them voted against.
Yep.
None of them voted present. They didn't vote for it. They voted against that bill to help you.
Yep.
But nobody cares. Nobody knows.
And that's in the House too, not just the Senate. Like the House Republicans voted against it too. So,
dude, it seems helpless at this point. It really does. It's overwhelmingly helpless because everyone's voting so hard on party lines that it is actually. I think we might have actually gotten to the point in American history where it's impossible to pass anything.
Yeah.
Bipartisan.
Well, that's a good segue to the filibuster if you have nothing else to hit on infrastructure.
Before we go to that, dude.
Yeah.
We need to spend on infrastructure. What the fuck are we doing?
We've needed to spend on infrastructure for a long time. I mean, and just to like sell the benefits, if anybody's not familiar with the economics of this, it is a win-win because infrastructure is an investment, not just in like whatever it is you're building, being more sustainable and safe, but also into the economy because it creates millions of jobs. I mean, that is like people who are going to get to work on building bridges, repairing and building airports and everything. And I mean, if it was expanded like they originally talked about, people who want to work in child services and everything else. So those are just millions of jobs that would be brought into the economy. Now, there's some people out there who, don't believe in sort of government like Keynesian spending to stimulate the economy like that, but I'm definitely not one of those people. I mean, I just don't think a libertarian approach works for this kind of stuff. I don't know how you have a country like a major developed country and not invest in this stuff. I think it's essential.
Yeah, and they're accessible jobs too. You're creating millions of jobs that normal Americans can get with a low education bar. We're talking about jobs that literally by existing fight poverty in this country. They fight wealth inequality. They fight food insecurity. There's just so many benefits to spending in this kind of way. And all the money.
And there's indirect benefits too. So like if you have a bunch of construction workers in your community that all have good paying jobs now because of this government spending program, then they go spend it at all the local restaurants and the local hardware stores and everything else. And those businesses do better as a result too. So, I mean,
Yeah.
there's just so many downstream effects where it's a net positive for normal people that I don't even see how anybody can spin it as a bad thing. Like, if you could argue, okay, like you wouldn't want to create these jobs like doing something meaningless. Like you wouldn't want to say, you know what, we're just going to put a bunch of people on government payroll and then like have them recirculate the money. It would work in the sense of sort of the downstream effects that I'm talking about, but we wouldn't have anything sustainable at the end, like a bridge or something like that.
It would
investing
increase
in this
productivity.
stuff, right? And investing in this stuff is just, it's a no-brainer because it's a win-win-win. Yeah, it's going to cost money. Nothing's free. But if we're going to spend money, I can think of nothing more uncontroversial to spend it on.
Yeah, you would think so. But you know, the fucking demon Republicans in the House and the Senate have different opinions. You know, you just can't spend money on anything unless it's a war in the Middle East.
Or a wall on the border, right?
Yeah. Well, dude,
not even that,
though.
though.
I got to give, you know, most of them credit. There wasn't widespread support for the wall. Not in the, you know.
Yeah, that's
not
true.
In Congress.
Why it didn't happen.
Thank fucking God. Can you imagine if that, I'm not even going to say his name, that thing had been elected and then all the Republicans in the House and Senate were like, oh yeah, we need to make this happen. Like, this is a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine it. It would have been a colossal waste of money that we'd be paying for generations that could have gone to something else. But
yeah, like infrastructure spending.
Yeah, well, they would they would argue the wall is infrastructure, so be careful there.
It's not infrastructure. Okay, okay. Well, maybe we should clarify this point.
Yeah,
it's not. People building things is not infrastructure. Infrastructure, is we're talking about repairing and building rail, roads, bridges, the things that allow normal Americans to get from place to place, to get from their homes to their jobs. The building of roads increases efficiency in our society. It increases access to better education, to better job markets. It diversifies our economy. Every single cent that you spend on infrastructure increases productivity.
Rail is another good thing to talk about because that's something that's insanely expensive too. Like, I cannot even imagine a single high-speed rail is going to be come out of this at all.
Yeah,
and
with $1 trillion,
right? Yeah,
there's
I know.
No fucking way.
Right. I know that like some of it has to do with certain state regulations and like how much it would cost to get done, but California wanted to build like a high-speed rail, just not even that covered the entire state, that covered like a measly like 1/3 of the state, and it was going to be like, I think, like hundreds of billions of dollars.
Yeah.
Just for that, you know?
For
like
sure. Yeah. Fuck it. I guess I guess we can't build it. We just got to leave it to Elon Musk to build with government dollars that he's subsidized with, to then take the profits for himself. Because
he's like, I'm just gonna drill a tunnel from like California under the earth all the way to the East Coast.
Yeah.
I'm going down to the core of the earth and coming back up.
Yeah. So this is kind of tangential, but we were talking about this earlier this week, and I think this is something that deserves to be talked about. There's this weird fucking idea that tax cuts for the rich increases productivity because corporations are able to invest their money better, and there's this weird idea that because of that, you know, like the more capitalist a structure is, the more laissez-faire it is, the more it increases productivity and increases innovation. Which well, it certainly is a nice idea.
Yeah.
But it's blatantly false.
Right. This definitely goes back to the trickle down conversation we were just having, but you know, ironically, looking at the historical data for the past 40 years, deregulation and tax cuts did not lead to job growth or economic success in any way. There's no correlation there. But what I just learned recently is that actually the opposite is true. If you're talking about businesses being incentivized to spend on their business, they're more incentivized to spend on their business when taxes are high, which you may be hearing this and going, no way, that doesn't make any sense. But bear with me for a second for this explanation, because it'll make perfect sense when you think about it. So let's say taxes are 60%. We're not going to, it's not what I'm saying they should be. It's just like a hypothetical.
Yeah.
But if your business taxes are, being taxed at 60% of the profits, and you can deduct expenses, are you going to want to avoid a 60% tax or a tax that's like 20%? So in those scenarios, you have to think, when the taxes are so much higher, you are incentivized to spend money on your business and invest in your business because it helps you avoid taxes. So that money is better spent being reinvested into your business. Whereas in a lower tax situation, you are more incentivized to just put that money in the Cayman Islands and not do anything with it.
Yeah, for sure. I just worked in a startup for almost a year, and watching how money flowed, and how liberal it was like required to be with your money in order to make it all work, because when like all these investment dollars are flying around, you have to spend them.
Yeah.
And if you don't spend them, they just get taxed away.
Mm-hmm.
So like basically all of the startups in this country run at a loss purposely to make the system that you just described make sense.
It's weird because I don't hear a lot of people like explaining that at all, but it's something that's so intuitive when you step back and think about it.
It's not intuitive when you think about it from like a 9th grade economics perspective. Like
right.
your coach, your teacher, who is also the coach of your football team, is sitting in a room and telling you like, well, the more money you have, the more you're going to spend it. And you like to like buy your friends food and stuff, right? So like imagine if you gave somebody like enough money that they could take all their homies out to dinner, and you're like, yeah, that's sick, bro. Like you've never paid taxes in your life or like written a check, and you're just like chilling in 9th grade, and you're like, yeah, man.
Yeah.
If I get taxes suck.
Yeah, if I had extra money, I could put it into the business. But it's really just human nature. And it's like, if you give people a choice between, hey, you're either going to get taxed on this money or you can reinvest it back into your business, it's pretty predictable, like what you would expect to see happen there.
For sure. Dude, this is kind of off topic, but I have this dumbass that I follow on Instagram who's a great friend of mine. And wouldn't mind me calling him a dumbass.
Okay.
But I'm still not going to name drop. But he posted this dumb fucking meme the other day that was like, 2 hours of your time, practice and learn a new skill. Or 2 hours of your time spent watching Netflix. And then it's like $999, new iPhone. Or $999, start a new business.
Wait, he thinks you can start a business with $1,000? What kind of business is this? See, like,
he's gonna sell origami swans on Etsy.
I don't think you can even do that.
You just buy. You could make a logo, right, for your business. You could buy a month of Photoshop, a bunch of cardboard construction paper, and like some paints, right? And make an Etsy profile and start selling origami.
You won't have very many of them though. That's pretty great though, dude. The side hustle people are like the dumbest people. I mean, you saw that tweet that I
my
retweeted
God,
today.
that shit you posted earlier.
That was I literally read that and I thought like these people are trolls, but they are not trolls. They were going on and on in that thread.
Yeah, wait. Let me read the tweet exactly. Let me pull it up. Oh my god, it's so funny. Side Hustle King says, "Would you rather get paid $1 million right now or $50 every month for the rest of your life? I'll take option B. That's what passive income is. Find a way to make passive income. It'll change your life." And then these guys fucking commented on it. This guy, Nick Huber at Sweaty Startup, said, "B all day. What people don't understand is 1/2 that million would be paid in taxes. $50 a month can be used to pay my cell phone bill, which I'd use to make more money, or my internet bill, which I'd use to get smarter and make more money, or rent a pressure washer each month to make more money." Like, whoa, first of all, where the fuck are you going to rent a pressure washer for a month for $50?
Yeah.
Are you going to... You're telling me that telling me that Sweaty Startup, you're gonna have a pressure washing startup and just like go to people's houses and like rinse their porch. Also, it's very quick, easy math. $1 million divided by 50 divided by 12 months.
Yep.
Is equals 1,700 years.
And so like the other piece of that is like every year that $50 is worth less because of inflation, to the point where, you know, thousands of years into that, if somebody could even live that long, it would be worth nothing. And on top of that, back to the passive income piece, it's like, dude, you think $50 a month is passive income? Like, if you had even $500,000, which you're not going to get taxed half of it completely, if you even had $600,000, you're going to make probably 20 grand off of that just investing, like with the most conservative investment portfolio ever per year. 20 grand.
You don't even have to invest it.
Right.
You can put it in Chase Bank, and you're like 0.05% interest would be more passive income than $50 a month.
Yeah,
you know? I mean, not necessarily Chase Bank, because the FDIC would only cover 250 grand of it, but you get the point.
Right.
That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. but yes, after a long string of like dunking on capitalists, we should probably talk about the filibuster.
Okay, cool. So should we start with what it is? I guess I'll start there.
Yeah,
so
sure.
Here's
start with what it is or what it was?
What it is, what it was, what it's supposed to be.
Great.
This is where I'll start. Number one, it's not in the Constitution. It's not like a thing that was here at the founding of the country. It's not like, you can definitely say it's American tradition, but it's not like constitutional. It's just a tradition. That's it. So it's not something that would be impossible to change. You don't need a constitutional amendment or anything like that. Number two, when the filibuster came to be a thing, it did not function the same way it does now. Even in more recent history, it did not function the way it does now. It used to be the case that if you didn't want to bring something up for vote, if you didn't want, like, you were, whatever it was that was going to be voted on, you're so fundamentally against it and you know it's going to pass that you want to stop it from happening, you as a senator had to actually get up there and literally read like a cookbook for 12 or 24 hours or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was one thing. So that happened very infrequently, only when like certain senators were very passionate about an issue.
Yeah,
and
I feel like people still think that's what happens.
Yeah,
I think people think that the standing filibuster is still what we're doing.
Right, no, not at all. So I don't have like the exact dates in front of me where this stuff changed. But yeah, so what they came up with initially was, hey, what you need to have 2/3 of people agree to vote on something before you vote on it. Which is the dumbest, like, just thinking about that is the dumbest thing ever. So when you hear about this stuff that's like, oh, it got filibustered, it's not like, oh, these people are on record voting against something. They're just voting to not vote on it. And now it's not even 2/3. You only need 40 people in like a vocal minority to say, hey, we don't want to vote on this. So you need 60 in order to overcome that, basically. So you need 60 votes in the Senate just to vote on anything other than what we talked about before, which is like budget reconciliation, which I wanted to make a small correction. I don't know if you remember saying this, but you said budget reconciliation happens twice a year. It happens twice this year, but it doesn't happen twice every year. So
True.
That's another like piece to consider. We can't even lump everything into budget reconciliation because it doesn't always happen that often.
Yeah.
That was all over the place. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, you're good. Yeah. So, yes to everything you said. Just to be a little bit more clear about the fact that the government is not so nefarious that it would say, oh, it requires 60 members of the Senate to vote on this. They remove themselves once from that so they can be like, oh, this is just the way it is. It's not that you have to have 60 people to approve a vote. It's that as soon as a bill hits the floor, it enters negotiation. And in these negotiations, they can't be stopped until enough members of the House agree that they know what their position is, and now it's time to vote on the bill. So,
but now they're not even having those debates anymore. They're just going straight to the vote on whether they want to vote on it or not.
Yeah, because they've done it so many times that they know, like, oh, we could waste our time debating this on the floor, or we could just not talk about it at all until we know we have 60 votes to bring it.
Right. Another special exemption from the filibuster is Supreme Court confirmation hearings.
Yeah.
So you don't have to have 60 votes to confirm a Supreme Court justice.
Oh, dude, we got to bookmark this. Mitch McConnell said some dumb shit this week about the Supreme Court. But it is important to know that the filibuster is supposed to, in a magical world, allow people who are in the minority to still have a voice on a subject, to hold up a hearing so that someone in the minority can allow their position to be heard and not be rolled over. But that really only holds merit in a world where the talking filibuster still exists, and not in one where we're just not having floor votes on bills.
I will concede that would be preferable to what we have, but I'm not even sold on the talking filibuster, to be honest with you. I think because we have 100 senators, and we'll probably have more than that, as the country gets older and older, it's easier and easier to just rotate people within certain factions of parties to, switch places on the podium. And so just the more manpower you have for that kind of thing, the easier it is to do. And I don't know that long-standing tradition is something that will be able to last the test of time.
Hey, listen, I'm not going to disagree with you on your point and your goal that that you think that the filibuster should just be gone in its entirety. But I think that you are overlooking the fact that everybody in Congress is old as fuck, bro. Those are some weak knees.
Yeah.
And you can't tell me that Mitch McConnell is going to make it more than like an hour and a half without needing to sit down. Like, there's only so many 75-year-olds that you can rotate out in a standing filibuster. Again, I just want to make it clear that I'm not advocating for the physical abuse of our old legislatures.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, say we get to a point where the Senate is made up of 200 people, right?
Yeah.
And you have like a radical wing of like 20 people, right? And so even if they all are 75, they can just like switch out every 2 hours, and then they don't have to come back for like another 12 or 14 hours or something, like there's just, that's not going to work.
Dude, I'm just like, I actually am loving this weird dystopian future where we're electing Senate members also based on their like physical ability. Like,
how long can you stand?
Yeah, dude, your campaign speeches are like, I can stand for 14 hours straight. Vote for me. I'm Jeff McGee from
I
Texas.
will not let anything happen. All right, we are getting nothing done when I get in there.
Hey, I'm Phil Franklin from Illinois, and I got robot knees. You know, we're gonna have guys with like cybernetic implants doing the filibuster, and there's gonna be like a big human rights debate about whether or not somebody with cybernetic implants is allowed to be in the Senate.
Oh,
that's the future I want, man.
So
that's great.
The Democrats, one of the things on the agenda this year was whether or not they should get rid of the filibuster. And the big argument against it from certain centrist Democrats, Joe Manchin, has been, oh, well, if we get rid of the filibuster, then when the Republicans take over, then they can just undo everything we did. And then it'll be this back and forth where it's completely unstable, which is true.
Which is a fair point.
It's a fair point, but you know what? That's what elections are for, because people are voting on policies, supposedly anyway. So if that's what people vote for, then that's what should happen. Not people vote for something and then nothing happens because of the filibuster, because people won't even understand what the problem is.
Yeah, because it's too many times removed. And you're right. People are voting now and not even feeling the consequences of their action.
Yeah.
You know, we have historically... other than this year, we've been dealing with very low voter turnout. And even this year, we have been dealing with really bad voter turnout in local elections.
Yeah.
But, people don't feel the results of their votes because nothing actually happens. Like, Washington is such a stalemate all the time. But yeah, the filibuster.
Yep. Do you think we should get rid of it?
I think it has to go. Yep. I think it's very important that we understand the ramifications of doing away with it.
Sign me up.
Yes. So what exactly happens when the filibuster is done away with is that parties in power push a ton more legislation through when they're in power. That means that when we get rid of the filibuster, the Democratic Party will have, it would in this case have free reign to have been passing legislation without negotiation pretty wildly for the past 7 months.
Yep.
Having owned 3 houses. It also means that when Republicans are in power again, which I think is likely in 2022, they will have the same free reign in the houses of Congress where they have a majority, which I think the Senate, they will have a majority in 2022, and I think that we're definitely going to lose some seats in the House.
I agree with you, and this is like the most frustrating part of this whole thing. I mean, we are seeing like deja vu of the first year of the Obama administration. If you remember, that's exactly when the Affordable Care Act got passed, which is the most substantial piece of legislation that came out. For the next 7 years, it was like almost nothing, from a legislation standpoint, almost nothing happened because Republicans took Congress. But the thing that is so frustrating about this is I agree 100%. Like, I'd be willing to bet money the Republicans are going to win the Senate and the House, and they're running on literally nothing. They're not running on a single policy. They are literally just running on, we're not the Democrats.
Yeah.
I don't know how you win a debate against that. Like, what the hell are we supposed to do?
It's hard to debate against that. Because here's the thing that sucks. At least the Republicans do shit when they have power. I mean, they actively work to make people's lives worse. But when we have all 3 houses,
we do nothing.
We do absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
We just bend over backwards to appease people that will never ever agree to work with us
Yeah.
for the weird moral high ground of saying like, oh, we're bipartisan, we're negotiating, we're compromising. Like,
Right.
where does this desire to bend over backwards for compromise come from? Why do we have to compromise for anything? Why is that important? Tell me why it is more important
Right.
that we get Chuck Schumer and Mitch McConnell to see eye to eye than it is that we put food on Americans' tables, that we issue cash relief, that we reform the educational economic system, that we build infrastructure. Why is it more important than us passing a Voters' Rights Act so that more Americans aren't disenfranchised by their local government and put in situations where it's more difficult for them to vote? Why is that more important than widespread police reform? The answer is it's not fucking important. It doesn't matter if Mitch McConnell would be happily seated next to you at a dinner table. I don't give a shit if you can't eat steak at your fancy little senator favorite restaurant with him anymore. It doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get Republicans on board with something, great, but like, it's such a one-sided negotiation. Like, you are literally neutering the bill, and it's not even going to work. That's like the other frustrating thing about it. But I want to get to like strategy. So like the Democrats, like you said, had this opportunity to get a lot done here, and the filibuster is one thing, but there's a lot of power grabs that they should have made early and aggressive. Of course we didn't, because, you know, Republicans would have jumped on this in a second. But number one, end the filibuster. That should have been like the number one priority. Then they should have been on making Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico a state, because we have to get better representation on the Democratic side in the Electoral College. So that's number two. Also in the Senate, because if they were states, that's 4 more senators. Then the Supreme Court. I mean, we haven't really had a major judicial decision made in a very long time, I feel like, but we are in a situation where the court is stacked with conservatives at this point. It's just ridiculous, because the only reason it happened is because they stole seats. I mean, Mitch McConnell refused to vote on President Obama's nominee for the Supreme Court, and based on nothing, you know.
Yep. And he's pledged to do it again in 2024, which is what I wanted to bring up earlier. He made a public statement on the record earlier this week that in 2024, if there is a seat and Republicans take back the Senate, he will refuse to vote on a Joe Biden Supreme Court pick.
So we really should have been fighting fire with fire here and packing the Supreme Court. I don't think we should call it that. Call it expanding the court. Call it whatever the hell you want to sell it to people. But this is another thing where 9 Supreme Court justices is not in the Constitution. There's been all different numbers of Supreme Court justices throughout America's history. And at this point, in order to balance the court, we probably need at least 13. So they should have done that. But now it's too late to do any of that, and we're not going to get anything done. The Republicans are going to come back and be the opposition party in Congress, and we're going to have another 3 years of stagnation. So
yeah, we just noted that Republicans would have the same power that we are fighting for when they're in control, but it's more important because our senators and representatives, the people that we appoint, their votes would actually matter. So right now, everyone's voting strictly on party lines because they can, because their votes don't make that much of a difference. Like you go on the record, and for example, with the American Rescue Plan, every Republican senator voted against it, even after months of negotiating it down to the much smaller package that we ended up passing. In a world where a bare majority is able to pass bills in the Senate, people will be able to feel the results of legislative negotiation faster, and it will become more important, and people will be paying more attention to how senators are voting. Because right now, no one seems to really care whether or not Senate members are voting for or against something, and I don't blame them for not caring about whether their senators are voting for or against things, because it doesn't really matter right now because the 60 vote threshold pulls almost everything to party lines. Because every substantial piece of legislation is happening in budget reconciliation anyway. So
I do hold the electorate a little bit responsible because there's this annoying duplicitous sentiment where it's like almost everybody when polled is displeased with Congress when you generalize it that way. But when you ask them about their congressman or their senator, they're fine with it most of the time, like on average. So that really leaves us with like we're sort of responsible for what we have, except we're inaccurately represented by those representatives anyway. So
yeah, we're inaccurately represented by those representatives because pieces of legislation that are widely popular in the American populace are widely disapproved of in the Senate.
That's because most of Americans live on the coasts in like small clusters. And then like all these 4 people who live in the Midwest get to make all the decisions for the country.
For sure. Yeah.
So what should we do about Joe Manchin?
I don't think Joe Manchin's the problem.
I've heard you say this, but what I mean is you can say he's a scapegoat, but I don't think his viewpoints are insincere. I think he actually is like this annoying centrist that's like practically a Republican. I shouldn't even say practically. He is a Republican. Like, the guy is a Republican. It's just not by West Virginia standards. But do you think that the Democratic Party should take any action? Should they primary him? Is he a necessary evil? What's your thoughts?
I believe that the progressive wing of the Democratic Party needs to primary him. However, I think that once the scapegoat, the Band-Aid of Joe Manchin is removed, I think that other Democratic senators will reveal themselves as also having the same ideology that Joe Manchin does and will continue to work at the behest of their funding dollars against legislation that would very much help Americans.
Okay. I mean, I don't disagree when it comes to corporate interests, but I think that his beliefs go a little further than that, so I'm not sure you would find a Joe Manchin clone in everybody like you're talking about. But
we at least have Kirsten.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some specific pieces of legislation that Joe Manchin has blocked.
Let me just give my answer to the same question first. Yeah. I think it actually is a waste of money to primary Joe Manchin because I think even if you can get a more progressive person nominated, they will never win in West Virginia. You're not going to get Bernie Sanders to win in West Virginia. So what I would say instead is to just not fund him at all and use those resources in places where we actually have a chance of electing more progressive people and also investing those resources in gaining legislatures so that we can re-gerrymander the districts back in favor of us rather than the Republicans.
Yeah, I hear you on that, and I don't disagree with that point in the reallocation of money, but I would disagree on the fact that it's quote-unquote impossible to get someone more progressive than Joe Manchin elected in West Virginia because Americans are very progressive on issues.
Oh, but you're talking about issues. See, the thing is, if you ask somebody in West Virginia, hey, what do you think if we gave you the option to just enroll in Medicare, even if you're not 65? They're like, oh, I love that. They're like, okay, well, what do you think about voting for a Democrat? They're like, fuck them. They eat the babies. I hate those people. Yeah. You're never going to get them on board with policy.
Yeah, even more simply than that, if you say, what do you think about explain the position, they're like, yeah, that sounds great. And then if you say, what about Medicare for all? Because they hear that tagline
and it's been
demonized so much in the media that it's an immediate deal breaker. So I hear you, but I don't think that it's impossible. And
Can you give me an example of a progressive person who's been elected to any high office in a southern state?
Radical liberal Raphael Warnock.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, listen, I would actually argue that Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff are two of our most left-leaning Democratic senators.
Yeah.
Just because of their work in committees so far and the platforms that they ran on, I think that they were awarded a very special kind of placement because of the anti-Trump culture that permeated the 2020 election. But I do think that in the state of Georgia, they are two of our most left-leaning senators. They both ran on campaigns that were not policy-based at all. If you look at their ad campaigns, especially Warnock ran on a campaign that was very much an aesthetic political campaign. It was all of his ads were, look at me, I'm a family man. I'm just like you. I have kids. I drive a car. I'm just like you. I have family dinner. We go to the park. And it's all just like,
we don't eat babies. Motion. I swear, we don't eat babies.
Yeah, we don't eat babies. We don't eat babies. I swear. And then because of him kind of playing it safe, John Ossoff was able to take a few more jabs in the media, and so I would argue that because of the overwhelming support for progressive legislation among normal people, even though we don't have them from like a branding perspective, I would say that we're entering an era of American history where those kind of victories are possible.
Okay. I like your answer. It's a lot more optimistic than how I feel about it, but there is like special circumstances that help those two people get elected in those states. I mean,
it's true. Do you think they're going to hold?
God, I hope so, but I don't know. I mean, I'm more worried about like the almost like completely white southern states, like your home state of Alabama.
Yeah.
I mean, that Doug Jones guy, man, he like he was not a radical liberal. This guy was like barely a Democrat, and just that was enough to not keep him in office. Like, there's no, I'm surprised he even won by that shred of a 1.5% against the pedophile, and still almost lost. And then he lost re-election because literally anybody else with an R next to their name is preferable in that state. So I think you do have a bigger uphill battle in states like Alabama and West Virginia and Louisiana and Mississippi. They are not North Carolina and Georgia. I'd said southern states. You answered the question perfectly, but North Carolina and Georgia are different than West Virginia and Alabama and Mississippi.
That's true, because they have these hubs. They have Georgia is different because of Atlanta and the permeating effects of Atlanta. Birmingham, Alabama is becoming a similar haven. And I think as that area grows, in 30, 40 years, we have potential to see a northern Alabama kind of opposition to that. But
Mississippi still has a Confederate flag in their state flag, so
yeah, for sure. Yeah, it sucks. All right, so let's wrap up the details. We're going to primary out Joe Manchin.
Yep.
Dude, this all seems hopeless.
Yeah. No, what we're gonna do is we're gonna lose the midterm elections and we're gonna do nothing. That's what we're going to do.
Oh my god. No. Let's not be disingenuous. We are gonna do something after we lose the midterm elections.
What?
We're gonna lower the corporate tax rate again, and we're gonna lower the corporate tax rate. We're gonna probably send some more money to Israel. We're going to continue to raise our military budget despite pullout efforts in the Middle East. Let's see, what else is super bipartisan?
Deregulate a whole bunch of environmental policies.
Yeah, we're going to a whole bunch of environmental deregulation for sure. We're going to bail out Jeff Bezos' space program.
After he goes on the first trip. Did you see that? Dude, like... Man, I don't know. If I was him, I'd be like, I think maybe somebody else can go on the first one. You know?
Dude, oh my God, this is dark. Oh God, I'm not even gonna continue with that bit. That's a dangerous bit, dude.
Well, what if it's what if it's a hoax? If he's like not actually gonna be on it, like if that spaceship blows up, is he just gonna have to disappear?
Oh my God.
Like now I'm Jeff Bezos' twin brother. Glenn Bezos. I've been here all along, I swear.
Oh my God. Imagine government funding puts a man on the moon and, capitalist innovation, and Amazon kills their founder. That's how we spend our money.
But he already backed up his consciousness onto a hard drive, and he's just going to be like an AI ruining the world for the rest of time.
Oh, God. Dude, I would be surprised if Jeff Bezos doesn't already have a Bezos hologram ready to run the company.
Yeah, he's like, dude, I have to be here for the test of time to put small businesses out of business. All right, we're gonna take losses in perpetuity just to put everybody else out of business.
Yeah.
This is a guy, in case anybody's not understanding the reference, this is a guy who, in the early 2010s, saw that there was a website called diapers.com that started a diaper subscription service where they mail it to your house. And he made his diapers so cheap on Amazon just to absorb up this market, because he knew the company was small enough that he could destroy them, that he took, I think it was a $70 million loss or something like that until he destroyed their business, and then he raised the prices back up. I mean, what the fuck is wrong with this guy?
Dude, capitalism breeds competition, and competition breeds innovation.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, I regardless of jokes made, I pray for Jeff Bezos' well-being and that he doesn't blow up in a spaceship.
Yep.
Because I'm a praying man.
Yeah, he's also not going to chainsaw murder Jeff Bezos, as he said in the past. So,
did I say that?
You did, yeah.
What, today?
No. In the first episode, you said there's a debate whether billionaires should be allowed to exist, and I said he's not advocating for killing them, and you said, yeah, I don't want to chainsaw murder him or anything like that.
Oh. I feel like you're putting words in my mouth, but anyway. For legal reasons, that's a joke.
Do we have any parting words for people?
We're just a couple himbos, bro.
All right. On that note, see you in 2 weeks. Right? We're a bi-weekly show now. So everybody knows.
Himbo is. We've decided that we're going to be an every fortnight podcast. Please, if you've enjoyed your time, take a minute to subscribe and share this with your friends. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you listen to your favorite podcasts.
Peace out.
Peace.